Bam. Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and I think I hit the clicks all in the right order. For those that don't know, I'm Teddy Burriss. My sidekick is Mr. Randy Wooden. Our special guest, we will introduce you to her momentarily. But before we get started, we need to thank those who help us make this happen. That's the Blackwell Captive Solutions. And Blackwell Captive Solutions is all about healthcare planning for corporations. If you want more power and transparency with your healthcare plan, then you need to reach out to Blackwell Captive Solutions. They help you equalize the playing field so your cost is not just based on what the insurance company wants to charge you, but rather based on what are your real expenses in regards to your healthcare insurance for your corporation. For those that never met me, I'm Teddy Burriss. I am the North Carolina LinkedIn trainer, strategist, trainer, coach, all about helping businesses create value with their corporations and their employees using LinkedIn purposely to create the greatest success. Randy, did I get all my ducks in a row, buddy?
Yeah, I think so. So, and I've just checked. We're up and rolling on Facebook and LinkedIn, so we're good there.
Cool.
So I'll introduce me, and then briefly mention a little bit about our guest and some of the topics that we have coming up. Another good show, Teddy. Looking forward to it. So Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina, director for our professional center based here in Winston. I have clients across the country, so if you or maybe somebody you know is a professional that might be interested in a job change, reach out to me, get you on the calendar. We work by appointment, and happy to try to help. But again, every week Teddy and I get together and we learn stuff. And this week is no exception, as we're going to learn about our local United Way here of Forsyth County. And Antonia Monk Richburg joins us, and we're going to talk some of the challenges that all businesses have faced through COVID and emerging from that, and the United Way is no exception. So we're going to get to know her and what brought her here, but also some of the successes and challenges that they faced here in the last couple of years. And also, if we have a little time, we'll break out the old crystal ball and magic wand and see what's cooking in the future. By the way, if you're watching us and you'd like to comment or have questions for our guest, if you would please put those in the chat box. Teddy will keep an eye on that. Teddy, have I left anything out yet?
I don't know, man. Dude, did you get a good night's sleep last night?
Yeah, I did. I need all the beauty sleep I can get, Teddy. So
I know, but we've realized that's not going to happen. So, but it's okay. You keep trying.
Antonia Monk Richburg, you are relatively new to our United Way, aren't you? Why don't you introduce yourself a little more detail, and then we'll get started. So, yeah, what you got?
Great. So, absolutely, I am relatively new. It's been 6 months now since I came to Winston-Salem. And I came here from Greensboro, North Carolina, where I served as the vice president of Cone Health Foundation for almost 24 years. Long history there. But prior to that, I did work here in this area at Bowman Gray School of Medicine and Department of Psychiatry on a national program of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So I've worked here before, but this is extra special for me. Loving the opportunity to be here in Winston-Salem. I am from Eastern North Carolina.
All right.
And came to this area to go to college and never left. Just loved the Piedmont Triad area. And so when I came to the college at UNC Greensboro, I stayed. And so I've worked in the Triad for several decades. We'll put it that way.
For a while. Well, we're glad to have you here. We're going to learn about the operations and some of the things that you guys get involved with. I know you've got a big fundraising event coming up. We'll want to make sure we talk about the sneaker ball. I'm going to work that in as well. So, but I always ask the why question of every guest, and trying to understand motivation and sort of what has guided you or given you the push, the impetus to pursue the kind of work that you do. Was it a single event, maybe a series of events, but what's your why?
So my why is definitely more than a series of events. I would say that, I was born, like I said, I was born in Eastern North Carolina to a single mom. lived in poverty for the first 9 years of my life and got a firsthand experience of what it's like to live without those basic necessities that other people take for granted. And so after those 9 years of living there with no washer and dryer in the home, no telephone, and of course, several decades ago, not having a telephone in the home was a big deal, and no car, it was just a different experience. And that experience sort of fueled my passion for ensuring that I spend my life ensuring that others don't have the same experiences that I had. And so I am fueled by just a passion to help those that are in need, to ensure that they have a brighter future. I get excited about the opportunities to support efforts that empower others to change the trajectory of their lives so that they have opportunities that they might otherwise wouldn't have had if there were not places like United Way to raise the resources to support the work that goes on in our community. So that's what fuels my passion. Mm-hmm. That's how I arrived at United Way. I actually served at United Way of Greater Greensboro as a volunteer. During one of their campaigns, I served as a loan executive. And during that volunteer experience, I got so excited about the work of United Way that I told the staff there that if you ever have an opening, I'd love to come work here. And a few months later, after my volunteer job had ended, they called and said they had a job opening. And even though it was far less than what I was making part-time to work there full-time, I took them up on the offer because I believed in the mission of United Way. I believed in, empowering communities. I believed in trying to help people get out of poverty. And so I took that job at United Way of Greater Greensboro, and it was the best job I've ever had up until this point. Because of course, this is the absolute best job. And so I worked there for about 5 or 6 years. And I remember telling the president of that United Way that if he ever left, I'd love to have his job, because I thought that was what I was born to do, was to run a United Way and to be able to affect positive changes in communities and to positively, impact the lives of so many people that are struggling to survive in a community that has so many people that are thriving. And so that's kind of how I got here.
So you touched on the word mission. So that was actually what I was going to ask you about next. And I think everybody has heard of the United Way, or most everybody has heard of the United Way. It's kind of like Goodwill. I hope
so, but if not, I'm going to change that.
Well, you're here to change. It's kind of like Goodwill. I work for Goodwill. Everybody's heard of Goodwill, but they may not know what our mission is. They may not know how we are structured, how we get our monies. They may not know that. And so let's dive into that a little bit to help people understand. First off, what is the mission of United Way? And then the structure. Are you independent from other United Ways around the country, for example? So let's take that and let's unpack that a little bit. What's the mission for United Way overall?
So our mission statement is that United Way of Forsyth County brings the community and its resources together to solve problems that no one organization can address alone. Okay. And so we recognize that we must partner in the community to get the work done. The United Way of Forsyth County is a part of the United Way Worldwide, in that we are a member organization of United Way Worldwide. We pay membership dues to United Way, and that allows us to continue to use the name of United Way. And then it also affords us training opportunities that we would not otherwise get, because it would probably not be affordable, given that we try to be really frugal with the limited dollars that we have, so that the majority of the funds that we raise go back out to the community to do good work. And so there is a United Way of North Carolina that also provides some local training to United Ways that are in the state. And then we have national trainings that take place through United Way Worldwide. And so we are networked, but we're independent in the sense that we decided what it is that we're going to do in the individual United Ways, because we try to make sure that the work that's being done is what's impactful and what's needed for the individual community.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like Goodwill. A lot like Goodwill, and the same sort of structure. So monies that are raised here from the local community stay in the local community. They're not shipped off to, and then dispersed. Right. So again, if somebody's local and they say, hey, I want to give. Now, if they give, are they able to give to, I guess, the general fund, or can they specify, how does all that work?
So there are multiple options. Of course, we encourage people to give directly to United Way without restrictions or designations, because that allows us to distribute the funds in the way that they're needed in the community. However, we do want to honor people's request and what their passions might be. And so if someone wants to designate to a particular organization within our United Way partners, we certainly can do that as well. And then we also have some people who live in Forsyth County, but perhaps, work in Forsyth County, but perhaps they live in another county. And so they may designate their gift outside of the county. And of course, we have to honor that because that's where they want to place their money. And we just sort of serve as the vehicle to get it there. But the lion's share of the money that's raised is normally designated for our community. And so then we are able to take those resources and divide that in an equitable manner with the funded partners that we have. And we currently have about 40 funded partners, and we support approximately 60 different programs in Forsyth County.
Wow, 60 different programs. So, and I'm guessing if somebody goes to the website, maybe Teddy, you can put the website up, that you could get a roster of those organizations. So COVID has impacted everybody. And I think back to, we used to have the United Way would come out to Goodwill and have the person there to talk about some of the initiatives you guys are working on. And we'd get our, I'll call it commitment card or whatever. And so we would fill that out. And then COVID hit. Yep, COVID hit. So nobody went to work. So things changed. How has COVID impacted your fundraising, how you get volunteers? Just how has it impacted the business?
So United Way had to quickly pivot when COVID hit, because of course we spend a lot of our time doing workplace campaigns, and those workplace campaigns really work well when we're able to meet in person and share our stories about the impact that the programs make in this community. And so when COVID hit, we had to think quickly, what can we do? Because we're not able to do this in person. And so we did a lot of campaigns on Zoom. And we made sure that everything was electronic, and so that everyone was able to use their electronic pledge cards to pledge. But I will say that COVID, did have a negative impact on our work, in that we were not able to raise the amount of dollars that we had raised in the past, because there is something to be said about face-to-face interactions. And so we are hopeful that as we move forward, that we'll have more and more opportunities to meet people face-to-face and to go back into organizations and share with them about the good work of United Way and its funded partners, because that is the best way for us to do our work. However, we were able to make modifications to ensure that we still had a successful campaign.
Yeah, Teddy.
Yeah. And Tony, here's when you were talking about that, I get that, where COVID created some negative impact on fundraising to be able to do the things you wanted to do and that your partners wanted to do. So the thought that came to my mind is, was there equally a negative impact on what your partners wanted to be able to do in the community for them to be able to get out there?
Well, we had to do a whole lot more marketing of our funded partners, and also, with the funded partners, they had to think quickly on their feet too, in terms of figuring out how do we still continue to provide, much needed services to a population that may be fearful of coming out because of this, what's going on. And so there were some, modifications they had to make to their programs in order to be able to do that. And then, of course, we also had to work with our school system to ensure that we had internet connectivity for all of the students, because, once they decided that they were going to be at home virtually, quickly we discovered that, there's lots of inequities that exist as it relates to that. And some neighborhoods, some, public housing units and things like that did not have access to the internet. So we had to partner with others in the community to raise dollars to ensure that people had access to what they needed to be able to do that. And then, of course, with that came other issues, because COVID was really good at shining a light on some problems that already existed that people were not aware of. And so we had to then figure out how do we quickly address those needs? How do we raise additional dollars? And so we were able to partner with the Winston-Salem Foundation and the city of Winston-Salem to ensure that we had dollars to help people with paying their bills, sort of like rent and utilities and things like that, because those became some critical issues and that was a space that we were not necessarily in on a regular basis, but we had to get into that space because we recognize that that's what the need is. And the one thing that you'll quickly find out about United Way, if you're not familiar, is that we remain relevant because we're always meeting the current needs of our community. We're not stagnant in that we think we're just going to do things the way they've always been done. We recognize that we have to make modifications. And so that's been really good for us to be able to pivot quickly and make those modifications so that we're able to effectively address the needs of our community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Teddy, did you want to take Don's question?
You got that in your notes to me that you and Antonia are going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're going to touch on how are funds distributed. I do want to ask you a question, and I've asked this of others who have come into a job, and you've been what, 6-8 months you say into this now? 6 months in. So you have hopes, aspirations, expectations, and whether on the positive side or the, oh my goodness, I didn't really realize this was happening kind of a thing. What are some oh no, or oh yeah, this is great kind of moments that you've encountered the first 6 where you go, wow, this thing really rocks. We're doing a great job. Or maybe on the flip side, things you didn't anticipate. Take that however you want to, either way. I'm just kind of curious what you've run into here in the first 6 months.
So I'll say that I've just been extremely pleased that we have an amazing staff of dedicated professionals who really care about this community, and they work hard each and every day to try to make things better for those that are disenfranchised in this community. And so that was really refreshing for me because that's my passion, and to come into a community and into an organization and find that there are people of similar thought processes working alongside me was very refreshing and affirming. And so that was like the first aha moment, like, wow, these people are really like energized and excited about doing this work. And I think that there's always going to be folks that are really resistant to change. And so people get nervous about change. And so I made it my purpose when I got here was that I was going to listen more than I listen. I always say that I listen more than I speak. And so I've spent these first 6 months listening to our staff, listening to the voices in our community, trying to unmute those voices that have not been heard so that I could hear from them. And so while I can't say that there are anything that I would change at this moment, what I can say is that I've become well informed in terms of what people think are the critical needs of this community. And so now, we're getting ready to embark on a strategic planning process so that we can determine what's the best way forward for us as an organization, so that we can continue to be a vital part of making a positive difference in the lives of people here in Forsyth County.
So, and again, change is, if there's one constant, it's change. And whether it's COVID or the economy or the needs of the population, I mean, it's got to be a fluid situation. So let's take Don's question about how do you make determinations on these 60 partner, or what do you call them, partners? What's the term?
Funded partners.
Funded partners. There are 60 entities out there who get a piece of the pie. So how do you determine who gets what, and how does that process work, to the degree that you can share? Because there may be some behind the scenes things that your proprietary stuff, I don't know. But how does that all shake out? How do you make those determinations? So
we have about 40 funded partners, but it's 60 programs within those 40 organizations. Okay. And so I just want to make sure we clarify that part so that people won't say, well, where's the other 20? And so we have community impact councils that are comprised of various volunteers in our community, those that are have lived experiences with some of the things that we're dealing with, and others in the community that are well versed in community organizing and things of that nature. And so they are charged with helping us to sort through all of the applications that we get and to vet those to ensure that we're making the best possible decisions. We do have staff that reviews those applications as well. And then once they've been reviewed by the staff and then vetted through our community impact councils, the recommendation is made to our executive committee and then to our full board to make the final decision. But it bubbles up from, this is a grounds up approach. We're not, starting from the top and saying, hey, this is what we think is best as United Way, and we're going to make the decisions ourselves. We've decided that it makes most sense that those that are proximate to the issues are part of the decision making, and they make those recommendations to us. And then from there, we have to take the recommendation that they make and then look at the resources that are available and then try to equitably distribute those funds. But it all comes from what the community says makes the most sense that United Way support.
Yeah. Do you have, I'll use the term a reserve or something in case of emergencies where something comes up? I know you're not the Salvation Army and other Red Cross, and you're not dealing in some of the crisis, that kind of crisis. But wouldn't it be nice if there was an immediate need in the community that you identify that wasn't in the original budget or the original plan, that you might have some money to throw at that?
It's a very good question.
Yeah. How do you sort through that?
We were discussing that this morning in our board meeting. During COVID is when this really hit, because there were no resources available in our budget because there had nothing been set aside to respond to a crisis or emergency. And so United Way was struggling to figure out how do we make a difference during COVID. And so thankfully there were resources at the city that we were able to partner with them to get those resources. But it's quickly revealed to United Way that, hey, we need to do things differently going forward, so that should there be some other crisis or national disaster or whatever that takes place in our community, that we would be able to respond to that. And so now we have in our regular budget a line item that's called response to community need. And those are resources that are set aside so that if something should happen during the year that we need to respond to, that we're able to do that. And so we're excited to be able to put that in our budget. And it's not nearly the amount that we would love for it to be, but it's a start in that we have set aside some resources to ensure that if there were a need that came up that was unanticipated, that we would be able to be at the table and partner with other funders in the community to address those needs.
Yeah. So, and again, you may not be at liberty to divulge some of this, but I mean, you've got 40 organizations, but 60 programs, and what are some ones that we might recognize and go, okay, yeah, I understand that. I know what they do, that kind of thing. Do you have some that we can, you can divulge that you support them, or is that private information? I don't know.
It's not private information. So one off the bat that I know you guys would know is Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah,
I know you guys know what they do, and they're one of our funded agencies. Action for Equity, which is focused on, as it says, for equitable communities. American Red Cross is one of the ones that we support. Legal Aid, which provides legal aid to individual families that need assistance with that. We also fund the Mental Health Association. We fund Family Services. We fund the Experiment in Self-Reliance, which also offers free tax preparation to low wealth individuals in our community. And that's a huge help for lots of people in the community. We fund City with Dwellings. It's a whole YMCA, YWCA. Those are some of the ones that we fund that I'm sure you all recognize. Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Yeah.
And there's on your website, ForsythUnitedWay.org, community-wide investments.
Yes.
There's a page that actually has a map. Randy, maps are not just on paper anymore, but it actually has a map that I can see dozens, if not more, of your funded partners. Did I say that right, Antonia?
Yes, you did. You did. Because see, we have two categories of funded partners. We have our community-wide partners, and then we have our Place Matters partners. Our Place Matters is an initiative where we are supporting 13 neighborhoods. And in those 13 neighborhoods, we have agencies that provide services for those 13 neighborhoods to try to help to improve the lives of the individuals that are in those neighborhoods. And so it's in two different buckets. The community-wide, there's an impact council for that. And then we have a separate impact council for the Place Matters, and those individuals that on that, they actually live in those 13 neighborhoods.
If there's an organization that says, hey, I've got an impactful mission and they'd like to be included or considered for being a part of the United Way, I guess, donation or help, how do they go about that? How does that process work?
So for this upcoming year, we're on a 3-year cycle where we fund the same organization. They're getting 3 years worth of support. And so, but the following year, so this year there won't be the opportunity to do that. But in 2024, an organization will put out a call for proposals, and so we'll let people know that we have open application, and they can apply based on whatever the priorities are that have been set for that year. They will be able to apply for that funding and then go through the regular process with all of our existing funded partners. And so that would be open. But what we're doing, because we're getting ready to embark on a strategic planning process, we decided that for this year, we would just continue to support the organizations that we're currently funding while we go through the strategic planning process.
Yeah, Teddy?
Carol asked, do you get into funding and supporting in any other way faith-based organizations?
So we have our our faith initiative, wherein we are working with a number of local faith institutions to see how can we partner together to affect change in our community. And so we have about 40 different faith institutions that are participating with us, and we'd love to grow that over time. And of course, we'd also would like, to have a partnership where they're supporting the work of United Way while we continue to work with them in the communities, in the community to do that work. We do not directly fund a faith organization per se, but we're working in partnership with them to do some of the programming that takes place in the community.
I guess it's not hard to believe that there's a lot of faith-based organizations across the triad who either directly or indirectly are all about the same missions.
Absolutely. There are lots of them. And I'm excited about the opportunities going forward to partner with some of those organizations. In fact, I think it's Galilee Missionary Baptist Churches has something that's coming up soon where they're going to have a community day, and United Way will be participating in that. And we've also participated in it with a number of other of our faith institutions in the community to do various community days with them. And during COVID, we had some of the internet like computer labs within some of the local churches, because they were not open for church, but they were allowing us to use their fellowship halls so that we could then put computers in there and make sure that children were able to have access. So we constantly partner.
Yeah, I'll put this question to Michelle, who is on here. She may be able to message me and tell me the contact information for someone who would have those conversations with faith-based organizations about some kind of partner activity.
Absolutely, because we have Cedric Parker in our organization oversees our faith-based initiatives, and so he would be the person to speak with. And Michelle could absolutely put his email address in the chat, and you could contact him directly, and he would love to talk with anyone that's interested in that, because we want to grow that part of our work, because we know that faith is an integral part of a community, and there's so many people that get their messages that way, so many people where that's the center of what they do, and so we don't want to not support, and we don't want to be a part of what that work is. And so we'd love to talk with anyone who's interested in that.
Yeah.
Yep. Teddy, we're almost halfway through. Do you want to take the break now, or you want to do that?
Let's pull that off.
And, okay.
You're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Those that don't know, I'm Teddy, and the other dude on the call is Randy, in the show is Randy Wooden. Our special guest today is Antonia Monk Richburg with United Way of Forsyth County, and been a really interesting conversation so far, and we're only halfway through. Our show is sponsored in part by Blackwell Captive Solutions. Randy and I know Carrie and her team, really good people, been doing this for a long time. They help organizations who have health insurance, self-insured health insurance. They help them put together what sometimes referred to as a shock absorber or medical stop loss captive to make sure that they can navigate sometimes those high dollar claims more efficiently. So if you are an organization or know an organization who is self-insured for your health insurance for your employees, reach out to blackwellcaptive.com, or call me or call Randy and say, introduce me to Carrie, and we'll make that happen. Back to you, buddy.
We can do that.
We can do
that. Hey, if you have comments or questions, put them in the chat. Teddy is an eagle eye on that, and he'll work he'll work those in where appropriate. So we've covered a lot about what I'll call the structure and kind of behind the scenes of United Way, and some of the I guess to help us understand how the business side of this thing works. And so now we're going to get a chance to talk a little bit about some of the initiatives, some of the cool stuff that you're working on. And we've got a nice little list of those. And so we're going to take some time to dive into that. Also, you have a big fundraiser. Let's talk fundraiser for a moment. And we'll also mention it at the end of today's show. But you've got a big fundraiser coming up, not this weekend, but I think the next weekend, right? The 6th, is it May 6th?
That's correct.
Okay.
Saturday, May 6th
is
our sneaker ball. And this will be our first sneaker ball that we've had. So it's our inaugural sneaker ball, and we hope that this will become our annual fundraiser. We are having the sneaker ball this year, and the proceeds from the sneaker ball will go to support pre-K opportunities for low wealth families. We recognize that while we have been working for several years now to address the 3rd grade reading, we know that if we start sooner with children, then they will have a better opportunity to be reading by 3rd grade. And so we'd love to be in the space of supporting the work that's already being done by great partners in this community as it relates to pre-K. And so the proceeds will go to that. But we want people to come in their after 5 wear and their best sneakers. We encourage the women to bling out their sneakers if they'd like to. Put on your tuxedo and your sneakers, you put on your suit and your sneakers, put on your evening gown or your cocktail dress and your sneakers, and come out to our sneaker ball. The cost for a table is $1,500, cost individual is $100.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I think, about 50 tickets left. So if you're interested, time's running short to get that ticket in. We're hoping to have close to 400 people in attendance. And so we're super excited about it. We will be serving a meal, and you get 2 drink tickets with your ticket. And we have a live band. M Soul is a live band that's there. It'll be playing all genres of music, and we'll also have a DJ. So we'll make sure that we play something that you like. There'll be plenty of opportunities to dance. We'll have a live auction, a silent auction, and a lot of other fun things that will take place on that evening.
Mm-hmm. So that's. Teddy, do you have your ball gown still, or is that in the shop?
No, I still have it. I think Antonia might need to explain to you what bling out your sneakers means, Randy. That might be really confusing for you.
Actually, a friend of mine invited me. He's secured a table, and so I will be there with my sneakers.
Blinged
I don't know,
out.
Teddy. A few weeks ago, I did some volunteer work with Habitat for Humanity and got to play in the red clay, muddy, soupy crawl space of a house. So I have these sneakers that I washed like 3 or 4 times. So I won't wear those, but those ones you could tell have been used before. But so I've got some that look brand new. So I'll spiff them up a little bit.
Your Chuck Connor high tops.
But no, it was who was that? Was that not Chuck Connor? It was I can't think of the name now. The guy that had his name on the sneakers years ago.
Chuck Taylor?
Chuck Taylor. There you go.
Chuck Taylor.
Yeah, Chuck Connors was the rifleman. He was.
My bad. He didn't wear sneakers.
No, not a whole lot. So again, the date is Saturday, May 6th.
Saturday, May 6th starts at 7 p.m. to midnight.
7 p.m. So
Winston-Salem State University in the Anderson Center.
Okay.
And if somebody wants to find out more about tickets, do they just go to your website, or how do they?
Just go to our website. It's the first thing it should be the first thing you see when you go on the website.
Okay. Good deal. So be warned, I will be there. So just
looking forward to having you there. I want to see you on the dance floor.
Oh boy. Well, there you go. Be careful what you wish. Be careful what you wish for. That's all I'll say that. So Don had another question too. It's a pretty good one. We can work that in now, or if you want to. So Don's question dealt with, hey, we've had a lot of challenges the last few years. People who've never really asked for help before, and now suddenly they find themselves in some pretty dire straits. So there's a lot to do, and maybe the problem is how do you begin to tackle some of the stuff that is going on? So what guidelines can you provide to know where to start?
So I would, number one, if you just want to make a phone call, you can call 211. And that's the information line that is centralized, but when you give to United Way in Forsyth County, it pays for the service for that service. And so I would recommend doing that first to find out where you need to be in terms of whatever the issue is. If you don't want to go through the 211 line, you certainly could call us directly, and then we could get you to the right place to ensure that you get the services that you need. But if you call them, then they will then be able to transfer you to the right place without you having to make more than one phone call. And so that's why I always recommend that first. But we are always welcome. You're always welcome to call here, and we would certainly do our very best to address whatever need that you have or get you to the right place.
Got you. All right. So
let's minimize the amount of calls that you have to make.
Well, and that's a concern too, because people can get frustrated and just give up.
Absolutely.
And to make it as easy as possible to get the word out. Let's talk some cool stuff. You've got the 100-year celebration. Let's talk that. What is that? What's that all about?
Yeah. So February the 6th marked 100 years since United Way started a campaign here in Forsyth County. And so we celebrated on February 6th with a luncheon. We had about 200 of our closest friends there for this luncheon with all of our funded partners, and just sort of talk through and celebrate the fact that we've been in this community for 100 years, partnering with our business community and our neighborhoods and others in the community to do great work. And so we're excited about that. And so we're celebrating for 12 months. So we will celebrate through February of next year, when we'll end it with another wonderful luncheon. But we are super excited about the fact that we have longevity, that we've been able to partner with so many of you all in this community to ensure that others have an opportunity to thrive. And so we're super excited about this 100-year celebration. And in addition to the Sneaker Ball, we're also going to have an event in September called a Bridging 52 event. We want to try to symbolically and literally bridge the divide that we have in this community. And 52 seems to be that divider. And so we're going to have an event on the bridge. So working with the city to close off that bridge for a few hours, and we'll have a social event that everybody can come to from both sides of 52. And we're super excited about that. And we'll do an art project on the bridge. And then we're going to preserve that so it'll be there for a while. And so we're partnering with the United Arts Council to do that. And and then we'll also have a number of other opportunities that will take place on that day. We've not advertised the day yet because we're waiting for approvals from the city on which day was going to work best to close the bridge down. So, but we're super excited about that. So that'll be a huge event that we'll have in September that the whole community is invited to come out for. We'll have free food and music and all kinds of fun activities going on for the whole family. So we're hopeful that everyone will come out for that, and we can sort of forget about which side we came from, but we just come to the middle on the bridge and have fun. And then we'll have a few other engaging events as the year goes on, because we want to continue to celebrate, like I said, for 12 months.
So is it called Bridge 52? Is that what you?
Bridging 52.
Bridging 52. So keep an eye on that. And again, website, I'm sure you'll have it out on social media and promote it there. And I've got to think too, it's a side note, Teddy, I know you're just a young kid and I'm so old, but I remember as a kid, I used to see, it works for all of us, the United Way. I saw commercial after commercial after commercial for the United Way. This is back in Rhode Island when I was growing up as a kid. And so I don't know if those were, just to fill time because they didn't sell commercials. This was a PSA, or if the United Way bought time, I don't know. But I saw the commercials a lot. So I'd heard of United Way. I didn't know what they did necessarily, but the branding was there, I guess. And so from continuing to brand yourself, social media now is it's taken over the world, really. How do you market United Way to the general public? Is social media? Do you do TV, radio? How do you go about that marketing process?
So that's been a challenge for our local United Way, trying to remain visible and accessible to the community. And so we've worked really hard over the course of the last 6 months to try to increase our visibility here in Forsyth County. We've had some billboards that are up. Hopefully you've seen some of those billboards that are up now. We also have, I guess I would call them flags that are downtown, the downtown area and on University Parkway of our 100th anniversary. And then we do have some ads on TV on all of the stations. And thankfully, through partnering with our local TV stations, we've been able to get some really good deals to be able to put some things on TV in terms of commercials. And then in addition to that, of course, we've increased our visibility on our social media. Something that's on our social media new every day. And our website, we try to keep that as current as we possibly can. Currently, constantly putting new information out there. And so through all of those, we think that we're helping people to understand and keep our brand out there. But we know that we have to do more because we're still not that household name that I want us to be. I want everybody in Forsyth County to talk about United Way and how great it is and how we all should support it, because when we support United Way, we help our neighbors to have a better life.
Well, yeah, and it's the right thing to do. And so, and I get that. I know that there's so much noise out there, and I mean that in a good way. Just we're bombarded by messages in our phone or all over. And so how do you help to differentiate and stand out? And so that's an ongoing challenge, because a lot of folks have heard of United Way, but for those that maybe haven't, how you reach those folks. So interesting to learn more about that. Now, there are a few other initiatives. I want to make sure we talk these things. You mentioned briefly Place Matters and talking about 13 neighborhoods. So what's that all about?
So United Way a few years ago decided that they wanted to concentrate some of their efforts to have true community-wide impact. So they chose 13 neighborhoods that are cohesive and that they're all right there together. And some of them are low wealth, some of them are moderate wealth neighborhoods, some of them are renters, some of them are homeowners. But nevertheless, they're all in need of something that United Way could provide support for. And so what the goal was to try to empower those neighborhoods to be able to advocate for themselves, but then also empower those neighborhoods in terms of giving them the tools necessary to do more. How do we help with economic mobility? We did that we started an apprenticeship program through Habitat for Humanity, where if you wanted to learn how to be in construction, then you could go through this apprenticeship program. And at the end of that program, you would get a $5,000 stipend for participating in the apprenticeship program, and you get your certification. And we had our first graduate recently. And so he graduated, he received his $5,000 stipend, but he also was hired by Habitat for Humanity with a full-time job, and he's working extremely well and loving the opportunity that he received that he would not have had we not been in that community providing that opportunity. But he's just one of so many others that have an opportunity for their lives to change as a result of us being there, because we recognize that place matters. And that unfortunately, depending on which zip code that you live in Winston-Salem, determines your trajectory going forward. The disparities that exist in terms of what people's are able to earn wage-wise in one zip code versus another. And so we want to change that. And so we're slowly but surely trying to make some impact in those 13 neighborhoods. And one of the other things that we did was we partnered with Habitat for Humanity to build new homes in those neighborhoods. Some of those, the neighborhood that we went in was Bowen Park. Before we went to do that, it had been 50 years since a new home had been built in that neighborhood. And now
50.
we have 50.
50?
Yes.
Wow.
So in the last few years, we have built 13 new homes in that neighborhood in Bowen Park. This is changing the way that community looks. Yeah. This is changing the way that people feel about their community. And so that's what we hope for all communities, but we're starting with those 13 neighborhoods. And once we've saturated those 13 neighborhoods and we feel like they're at a really good place, we'll move on and we'll have a place-based initiative somewhere else in Winston-Salem or somewhere else in Forsyth County, because of course we're here to serve the entire county, but this is the place where we started, and we want to make sure that we get those folks in a great place. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at with this fundraiser is how do we ensure that the children there have ready access to pre-K opportunities, and the pre-K opportunities that are in walking distance of their neighborhood, where they know that they can drop them off in a safe place and pick them up in the afternoon when they get off work without worrying about their children, but then also knowing that their children will have those things instilled in them to ensure their academic success.
Do you do anything with the school system itself directly with the public schools, or are you giving to nonprofits predominantly?
So we don't give money directly to the school system, but we do partner with the school system to ensure success. We partner with them through mentorship programs. We partner with them in terms of providing funding for after school programs that benefit the students that are in the public schools. Those are some of the ways that we are able to partner with our school system. But we do not directly fund them.
One of United Way of Forsyth County's board members, another one of our show participants, Tricia McManus.
Absolutely. She is a member of our board. And that has been a great for us as United Way. And we have an awesome partnership. And so we're helping her to reach that goal of, having all kids reading on grade level by third grade. So we're working in tandem with that.
Yeah, got you. Another initiative is Partnership for Prosperity. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So Partnership for Prosperity, it started out as an initiative through the mayor's office, looking at how can we address poverty in this community. And once they came up with their findings and what they wanted to do, United Way stepped up to the plate and said that we would shepherd that process. And so we house a Partnership for Prosperity in our offices here, and they work in neighborhoods trying to work one by one with individuals to impact their lives and to empower them to make positive decisions for themselves and to move upward in terms of economic mobility. We are getting ready to move to what I think is called Salem Gardens apartment complex to work with the individuals there. Part of the Partnership for Prosperity is to advocate on behalf of low wealth neighborhoods. An example would be we had an apartment complex, I won't name it on here, but we had an apartment complex that had some substandard apartment buildings, and they were infested by roaches and rats, and they were able to advocate on their behalf to get those things addressed and let them know what their tenant rights are. And so that's part of what they do, is like making sure people are aware of what their rights are, advocating for them, being the voice when they don't feel like they're empowered to voice their concerns. And then also having trainings with them to ensure that going forward, they have all the tools they need to be successful in life. And so this has been an amazing program, and they're working like in partnership with neighbors to ensure that, they have prosperity going forward.
A lot of the initiatives deal with, it sounds like, education and providing resources to, kind of we say goodwill, not a handout, but a hand up to help people rise. Crime is a big deal. Crime, drugs, it's everywhere in the country. So it's not just unique to Winston. So, and that'll help get people derailed as quick as anything is with crime and such. So, so maybe you don't directly partner with you partner with entities that deal with the schools, but what about what I'll call law enforcement and helping keep, people on the straight and narrow? How do you deal with that? Yeah, Teddy?
And before Antonio answers that question, I will share with you, I looked at your board of directors, and it's a diverse group of people, as I would expect, including, I believe I'm going to say his title wrong. The sheriff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sheriff is on our board, and we just recently added one of the assistant police chiefs to our board. Okay. And prior to her leaving our city to become a U.S. Marshal, the former police chief was also a member of our board. But in answer to your question, it's the question I think you asked me. Were you asking me of what we do with the law enforcement? Yeah,
how you partner with them to, with programs, or are there nonprofits that partner, and so you funnel the money to the nonprofit, and how does that work dealing with the crime issue in our city?
So I'll say this: so like when we look at our priorities, that has not been one of the top priorities that we've had, because we've really been focused more on economic mobility and academic success. However, one of the things that we talked about earlier was response to community need. And so with the growing, the increased violence that we have in our community, and particularly with our youth, one of the things that we thought it made sense for us to do was to respond to that community need, which is to address youth violence in this community. And so we voted this morning to partner with the Sheriff's Department to provide a new program that I'll let him share this, but a new program with the Sheriff's Department that will allow youth to participate in a program all summer long, and then we'll follow those students for the next 3 years. We're continuing to provide prevention opportunities, but these are trying to make sure that the children that try to catch children before they ever join gangs or ever get into that mode of violence. And so we're super excited to be able to partner with the Sheriff's Department to do this. And there will be a number of other partners that will be at the table to ensure that this program is successful. And we'll be teaching these children or exposing these children to all the opportunities that are out there for them in terms of trades, whether they want to go to a community college or a four-year institution. We're going to show them all the possible opportunities that are there instead of this life of crime. And so we're super excited to be able to do that. And so that will be a huge partnership for us with the Sheriff's Department. And so that's the thing that I will lift up, because the other programs, while there may be some small component of it that may be violence prevention, this is one that's specific to that. And with us partnering with the Sheriff's Department during COVID, we partnered with the Sheriff's Department to help with a number of initiatives that they had. And we also partnered with the police department during COVID, but this will be the first 3-year, like multi-year funding that we are providing for crime prevention.
So
housing,
Antonia, Randy, I'll share. So Randy and I are working to get the chief of police on the show. I think we're getting closer to pulling that together.
July 5th.
Yeah, and then we also are reaching out to the sheriff to get him on the show. And when we get him on the show, we'll ask him to tell us more about that.
Absolutely, because it's his news to share. Yeah. So but because we just made that that approval at 7:30 this morning. So very, very hot off the press.
Good. Yeah. And providing hope is a big thing. I know that's one of the things Goodwill does. We train people, but we hopefully inspire and allow folks to have hope for a better future. Because sometimes, you just kind of get mired in that muck and you get stuck there, and unless somebody can act upon that. And so it sounds like you've got your finger on the pulse to really affect some change. One other one I wanted to mention too is Housing Matters, and you maybe have touched on that because you've talked housing, but that's a specific initiative, something separate. So
Housing Matters is really comprehensive in that is an opportunity for us to really, we are. In some communities, it's separate from United Way, but in our community, we've kept it in-house. We address affordable housing. We address the needs of those that are currently experiencing homelessness through Housing Matters. This is where we are go out and do the point in time count to determine how many people on a given night are on the streets and with no shelter. We are the place where most of the federal funds that are received through the city to address housing is actually done at our United Way. We're actually the ones that are doing that work on behalf of the city. And then we also work with the county. We coordinate the continuum of care. And so every facet of housing that's focused on low wealth individuals happens right here at United Way. We have a team of almost 20 members that focus solely on housing here at United Way. So whatever you can imagine happening is happening here in terms of housing. And we also have a intake line so that if you're experiencing a particular crisis, perhaps maybe you're facing eviction or things like that, we have an intake line where you can call and get information that's separate from the 211 line. This is specific for housing, where you can call when you're in a crisis. And that line is manned even on the weekends. We have staff to do that. We even had staff that worked over the holidays to ensure that if anyone was in a crisis, that they would have a place where they could call and get immediate assistance. We have our pulse on the community, so we know where they can go for shelter and be able to direct them to those places. And we coordinate our work with all the shelters that are in town and all those others that are providing work with affordable housing. We sort of coordinate all those activities. And so all of that takes place right here at United Way.
All right, we only have a few minutes left. Teddy, did you have
imagine, Antonia, that you have a whole lot of community resource phone numbers in your cell phone?
I do. I do. Well, I do. I probably don't have as many as I need, but I'm getting there. But yes, absolutely have a lot.
So a lot of the fundraising, at least historically, I assume you did through companies where you'd go and do derive at a company and so forth. So if somebody maybe is retired or somebody doesn't, maybe, self-employed, whatever, somebody wants to donate, get involved, how can they do that?
Oh my gosh, they can just give me a call and I'll take care of it for them. But no, on a serious matter, so our vice president for resource development would love to be able to talk with them. We can still take gifts from those that are retired. The difficulty we're having is how to reach those folks because we don't have phone numbers or email addresses for those folks. Once they leave the companies, there's no way for us to make contact with them, but we would love to be able to do that so that we can continue to have a relationship with those individuals once they retire. But they can just call the main United Way number, and we can either provide them with an electronic pledge card, or we can send them one in the mail.
Or you go to your webpage and hit that donate now button.
That's true. Sorry. Thank you for helping me remember that. Yes, you can go to the webpage and hit the donate now button. That's correct.
Well, we've got about 5 minutes left. I usually ask our guests to have a takeaway or two, but before we do, Teddy, I don't know if we need to have a story. Do you have one that you want to put in later? Because that'll.
I may, but go ahead and give her 2 takeaways, and you and I'll close out with that.
What I was going to ask was, Teddy has a crystal ball there. I know he's got it squirreled away somewhere. So if you were to look ahead, projecting the future, I know it's a dangerous thing, or if you want to take out a magic wand, what would you like to see? If you could just say, this is what's going to happen, what are some things that you'd like to see down the road?
Well, I would love to see in this community more people that are interested in supporting the needs of those that perhaps may live on the other side of the bridge, but are in constant need. I'd love to see more support for the individuals that are struggling in our community. I'd love to get to a point where I could say that the majority of the people in Forsyth County are thriving, and that most of the needs are met. I know that might be pie in the sky, but you asked me what I would envision, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would envision, is that we get to a point where the majority of the people in our community are thriving. I know that we'll always have poor people that are in our community, but I think we can do better than we're doing right now. And so I'm hopeful that United Way can be the catalyst for change, and that we can incite others to come together and partner with us as we work so diligently to change the trajectory of so many lives in this community.
Yeah. All right. So a quick takeaway or two, something you want listeners to remember about today's show.
I want you to remember that United Way is here. We are here to partner with all of you. We value all voices, and we would love the opportunity to have you as a supporter of the work that we're doing. And we have some great ideas to do some new things that we're not at liberty to share right now, but we're hopeful that when those things come to fruition, that you're huge supporters of it. And if you have some resources that you have not allocated elsewhere, and you'd like to help us as we try to support pre-K, we'd love for you to write a check to United Way to support that work. Gotcha.
Antonia Monk Richburg, President, CEO, United Way of Forsyth County. Welcome, and thanks for being on today's show. We learned a lot today, so thanks for joining us. Hang on for just a minute. Yeah. So, Teddy, do you have a story? I could make one up, but I don't have a grandiose one.
My story is pretty simple, Randy. When I talk to people like Antonia, and I talk to the Goodwill funded partners, it reminds me that I live a pretty decent life. And then it reminds me that what I should be doing is helping where I can be helping. And that's important. I know for a fact that's important, not only for our community, but also for me. So I share that to maybe poke others who are listening to this to, do you look at it the same way? That's my story, buddy.
Yeah. And the old get off the bench, get in the game kind of a thing. And so sometimes writing a check is all somebody can do physically, perhaps due to their limitations that they may have, but also get involved with some of these organizations, break a little sweat, and
roll around the mud.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Volunteer. We're always in need of volunteers.
Crawl in the
Always
mud
need
like
volunteers.
crawl in the mud like I did.
Yeah.
But anyway, again, thank you for joining us. It's a big world, and I don't think we'll ever solve everything. But you know what? Doesn't mean you can't try.
Keep working.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean you can't try. Teddy, good guest coming up next week. Talk us through that and take us on home and buy us lunch.
Okay. So coming up next week is it's Jenny Byrne, right? Is that I had that right? Yeah, Jenny Byrne's coming. They're called the conversation. Jenny's with a company called Constellation, and the conversation is titled "Work Smart." So it's a little different topic. Randy and I are clearly going to mix up the conversations. Stay tuned and watch what's happening, because I promise
smart,
you,
huh?
we not only is this going to be a good conversation with Jenny, but I'm just telling you, the conversations that Randy and I are bringing to the show are going to get wild, wide, and diverse.
Yeah, we got some really, really good stuff coming up, by the way. Seriously, some really good guests.
And Antonia, we need somebody to call Billy and tell Billy to talk with Teddy and Randy.
Okay.
We'll do. Thanks, guys.
All right. Our show is sponsored in part by Blackwell Captive Solutions, and we're grateful for them showing up and helping us to pull this off and make it happen. Antonio, take care. To all of our audience members, thank you all, and we'll see you next week.
You're deep.
Take
See
care.
you. Bye-bye.